everybody, my name is Thảo. I learn in the class 5.7 in this Wellspring Saigon school. Before going to the story, I want to ask you have you ever left something in a classroom before you go home? Today, I will read Open the Window, Eyes Closed, written by Nguyễn, Thương and translated from Vietnamese. I will tell you about the secret of the chapter, leaving something in the classroom before you go home. The other day, something happened that puzzled all of us in my class. Nobody noticed it at first, but then it became obvious. He was arriving in the classroom very early. This was especially weird because he was never a particularly hard-working student. And yet, he wasn't even calling around for me to go with him to school anymore. This repeated itself a couple of times, and I decided I would get up early and follow him and see what was going on. What was he up to? I didn't know yet. All I knew was that he was heading for school much earlier than necessary. Straight away, I noticed that when he arrived in the classroom, he would walk immediately to the teacher's table, pick up something, and then head back to his desk. He held at something very tightly and he kept smiling. When I asked him what was so funny, he just kept quiet. I told this to my classmates. They then decided they would make it to the classroom early as well. Unfortunately, we'd always find him sitting there, smiling and saying nothing. So the next day, we arrived even earlier, but he was still sitting there with a smirk on his face. He was always the first there, though, and it took me a whole week to beat him and get there before he did. There, on the teacher's table, I saw a small package. When I opened it, I saw a piece of candy. So who left it there, and when? I was peeling the candy and dropping it into my mouth when he dashed in. I shouted, "I knew your secret!" He smirked. "Only after I've already had 20 pieces of candy." "But who left it there?" "I don't know." During the break, my mates gathered around me and asked, "So, what's it all about?" I winked at tea and smiled. They were very angry and they kept asking me, only to get my half smiles and answer. How could I let them know the sweet secret? A few days passed and gradually the secret was revealed to more and more people. We looked at each other and smiled. In the end, the whole class knew the secret. But we still don't know who started it all in the first place. We arranged it among ourselves to keep watch, but we couldn't find the answer and hadn't a clue who left those candies there. There was always one on the teacher's table first thing in the morning. At first, we thought it was Miss Han, but that was impossible. She always left the room before we did. So who was it? We just didn't have a clue. That one day, I decided I would just sit there in the classroom and wait for the stranger to appear. But I couldn't manage it. I got too hungry. Then I had the idea I should leave the stranger a letter. So I wrote, "Dear stranger, can you please tell me who you are?" The following day, I was the first to arrive. As usual, there was a candy in the small package on the teacher's table. There was no reply to my letter, but my own letter has disappeared. That meant the stranger has taken it away. This made me think really hard. Why didn't the stranger answer? Then it occurred to me that I too could be a stranger. Why not? If he could do it, then so could I. The next day, I heard all my classmates talking together. There are two strangers. One left a robot, the other the cookie. The next day, there were 3 strangers. Then there were 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Now we understood. The strangers was. When school was over, some of us would just smile and say goodbye, but wouldn't leave. We were the strangers ourselves. But the original stranger was never found. And so we all tried to make it to class extremely early. Now that we were all strangers ourselves, we simply ate the gifts the other strangers had left. Now and then, a gift came along with a funny question. We agreed among ourselves that these questions should be answered with more gifts. But we were never really satisfied because one question still bugged us. Who had been the first ever stranger. I told all these things to Dad, he said. Oh, that's the secret. There is a secret and a gift in every friend. When you know somebody's given you a gift, you love him or her more than the others, right? When you receive the gift but you don't know who gave it, you will love everyone you know. Anybody among them could be the gift giver. So it may be a good thing you don't know who the stranger was after all. So I went to school knowing that every morning someone was going to give me a present. Don't you think that's interesting? Just imagine it. Anybody around you could be that stranger. And of course, you in your turn will be leaving something before you go home. And gradually, you will realize there are more and more strangers like this in the world until all of us are strangers and gift-giving friends to everyone else. Thank you for listening. Now you know what the secret of this chapter is. Goodbye!